Good afternoon and welcome to the Kanban Overview series brought to you by the Business Weekly in partnership with Financial Markets Indaba. The purpose of the Kanban Overview series is for players as well as potential players in the capital markets to know more about the players in that particular sector, to be able to know who is who in the capital markets sector. And today, to kickstart this series, I will be joined by Kuda Mundoozi from Imara Capital. He'll be introducing himself in a minute. But be free to join us, and probably at the end, towards the end of the webinar, we'll be able to call on you to ask you questions that Kuda will be able to respond. And Kuda, welcome to Capital Kanban Overview series.
Thank you, Kudzi, and it's a pleasure being here.
Thank you. Let's kickstart this, Kuda. Kuda, you've been in the capital markets for a number of years. If you probably can tell us in brief your journey in the capital markets, how it started, and up to where you are now in brief.
Okay, thank you, Kudzi. I've been in the I think this is my 16th year in the market. I started way back when we're still in hyperinflation. And as a young man coming out of school, you know, it was also fascinating seeing all these share trading and all actually putting the theory into practice. We've had a turbulence throughout the course of my stay here. If you remember, in 2008, things got really hectic and people had to lay people off and so forth. But fortunately, I remained at Imara. And we've seen the transition from when there was a gridlock in the market right up to dollarization. The market was closed, reopened, business was slow, and we saw foreign participation coming in. And then fast forward, we again hit a bit of turbulence where we saw an exodus of foreign portfolio managers. And I'm happy to say that we now have quite a number of local participation in the market. We now have people who understand how, especially the ZSE works, and how this has been, I would say, the best kept secret, as people usually didn't know where to put their money. They would keep their money in their account. But now we've seen improved participation, not only on the corporates, but also on the retail front. So for me, my journey has really seen the transition of this market from just being seen as a place of the elite to being a place where everyone can actually participate.
Thank you. Now, you are with Imara, and Imara is one of the oldest institutions in the capital markets. Can you tell us in brief the Kanban overview, the background of Imara Capital?
Okay, thank you, Kudzi. Imara is quite a large group. We have 4 main units within the group. Initially, we were part of a larger group, which was Imara Holdings, which had a footprint right across Africa. In the end of 5 years ago, we moved out of that group, but stayed affiliated with the group. So I will zero in on Imara Capital Zimbabwe, where we have 4 units. Number 1, we have the asset management, where you probably know that we are the largest independent private client and institutional pension fund manager. We have the corporate finance division, where we predominantly raise capital and provide strategic advice to both large and small companies. We have a fiduciary services unit where we provide collateral management. We also provide escrow and other similar services. And we have the stockbroking unit, which is Imara Edwards Securities, which I can say has a strong research heritage. Now, Kudzi, allow me just to quickly touch on all the units quickly, so that you have an appreciation of what the units do.
Yes, please go ahead.
So in Imara Asset Management, we basically have a long-term portfolio management services for clients, including pension funds and high net worth individuals. our universe is really concentrated in portfolio that has well-managed companies as well as barriers to entry. And I'm happy to say we also have a very credible and experienced investment and research team. Now, there's quite a bit of work that goes on in corporate finance. I'll quickly just touch on just the base of it. We look at the capital markets, where we predominantly look at private placements, IPOs, rights offers and clawbacks, bond and equity issues, as well as debt issues. Then we have M&As, where we look at origination and research. We look at valuations and fair value opinions. We look at structuring. We look at regulatory applications and management. We also look at fundraising, and then we also look at controlled disposal process. Still on the corporate finance, we also play in the privatization and demutualization space, where we look at pre-feasibility research, pathway determination. We look at partnering agreements, trade sales, as well as IPOs in that space. And finally, still on corporate finance, we play the advisory role, where we look at corporate restructuring and general strategic advice to enhance shareholder value. And there's this baby which was born, I think Imara Fiduciary was born about 6 years ago. And this is quite interesting because we act as an independent and non-discretionary security agents. We also act as facility agents, and we also act as escrow and paying agents. I'll just expand a bit on that. As security agents, we provide holding security. So we hold security provided by the borrower on behalf of the provider, of the funder. And we believe it is a more cost-effective structure where syndicated funders just register the collateral they have, and there is no need to re-register the collateral. So there's quite flexibility there. We also act as borrowers or lenders, where they can change a lending relationship or loan structure without any re-registration costs. But I must also emphasize that as Imara Fiduciary, we are not a bank or a lender, and we have no interest in those transactions beyond those of our clients. As a facility agent, we look at recording, or we can say tracking, the use of loan proceeds and collection of compliance documentation. We look at monitoring and reporting on convenient requirements and warranties. We look at receipt and distribution of project reports and financial information from borrowers. We also look at dissemination of courtesy reminders to borrowers. We can do site visits and collateral inspection. We also look at the processing of security distribution for proceeds in the event of default. And lastly, still on this baby, we act as an escrow agent, where we can do the day-to-day management of cash flows or security deposit accounts. We can monitor and report on the performance of sinking fund accounts. We also ensure timely payments of interest and debt costs. And also we are responsible for safekeeping over escrow arrangements in respect of pledged shares and movable properties. And finally, I'll just touch on stockbroking. So before I just start on stockbroking, suffice to say that the whole Imara group originated from the stockbroking unit.
Yes,
so
okay.
Imara,
To just cut you short there, Kuda, for those who are joining us, we are in the Kanban Overview series brought to you by Business Weekly and the Financial Markets Indaba. The purpose of this webinar is to get an understanding of players in the capital markets sector in Zimbabwe. And today we are joined by Kuda Mundowez, who is the head of investor relations at Imara Group. So Kuda, you can go ahead and tell us more about your stockbroking unit.
Okay, thank you, Kudzi. So like I was saying, that the whole Imara originated from the stockbroking unit. As you said earlier, we are the oldest functional stockbroking firm in Zimbabwe. Imara was established in 1954 as Edwards & Co. We still have a significant market share of the market, and we do aim to consolidate and maintain this this position through strengthening of our mutual beneficial relationships. We have a broad range of both institutional and then individual investors. Like I said, that when we started, there was a lot of foreign action where we had foreign portfolio investors coming into the country. And we've also seen exodus of these portfolio investors. But I'm happy to say, as Imara, we've also have strong relationships with local corporate, with local investors, with also local retail investors. We also have a reach to most clients in Zimbabwe because we have a retail, we have a satellite office in Bulawayo, which caters for that side of Zimbabwe. And in addition to all this, we pride ourselves in the expertise we have in the local staff, and we can call upon significant skill base from operations right across Sub-Saharan Africa, mainly from the relationships we've built through the years and from some partnerships which we still have. Lastly, I think I'll just touch on the services that we offer. As Imara, Imara Edwards Securities, we mainly offer research. I think again, because I must point out that Imara was the first stockbroking firm to offer this service of having a research desk, which is now probably the norm in any of the broking firms. We also have a sales and trading desk, as well as we play the sponsoring broker role. I think, ladies and gentlemen, Kuzi, this is Imara Capital Zimbabwe for you.
Thank you, Kuda. Maybe in brief, if you can just tell us the team, especially the heads of these various units that you have at Imara, probably who has the stockbroking firm, who has the corporate finance, and the other new baby that you talked about.
Okay. Okay, good. So I'll start with asset management. It's headed by a gentleman called John Leggett. He has a wealth experience. He started off in Europe and then settled here in Zimbabwe, and he has brought a wealth of experience. He's one of the founders of AIMS. He started that organization along with other individuals when they were still in the market. On the stockbroking side, it's headed by Thaddeus Kasaira, who has over 35 years experience in the market. He started way back, I think, in 1991. That's when he joined Imara and rose to be a stockbroker in 1993. On the fiduciary side, there's a lady called Rashida Chikono, who also has a wealth experience from Europe and the banking sector. On the corporate finance, it is Sean Gammon, who also doubles up as the CEO or the group CEO for Imara Capital Zimbabwe.
Thank you. Let's move on to the next segment, where we now want to look at the capital markets performance, especially in particular in 2021. What's your view of the market performance in 2021, and what are some of the key issues probably that drove the market? We know it was up by 315% in local Zimbabwe dollar terms, but what are some of the key themes that you noticed in 2021 that you thought they were the major highlights?
Okay, Kuzi, thank you. Let me just give you sort of a 360 view of what we've seen on the market in 2021. I think you would agree with me that 2021 proved to be a very strong year for the Zimbabwe economy, despite the various COVID-19 induced lockdowns. However, I think 2020 was not a particularly good year. And in part, we can attribute the recovery in 2021 as just recovering from a very low base where we're coming from 2020. And I think the recovery in 2021 was greatly assisted by the Reserve Bank's decision to allow the US dollar to be used for local transactions alongside the Zimbabwean dollar. And I think they did this in July 2020. And this move has resulted in companies reporting improved numbers. And you know, Kudzi, what's remarkable about these improved numbers is the recovery is not just on inflation, but it's actually backed by production and profitability. For example, you could have seen, I think on Friday, Delta released their third quarter update, where management reported a strong operating performance for the quarter, as all units recorded volume recovery in Zimbabwe. I mean, the only exception there could have been Netbrew, but that's in Zambia. And they also mentioned how the economy continues to benefit from slower inflation, increased use of foreign currency for domestic transactions. And suffice to say, they also mentioned how they expect the Zimbabwe business to post volume recovery on account of improved access to forex through domestic nostro sales, slower inflation, higher agricultural outrun, mining and infrastructure spending. And Kuzi, that highly echoes what I've just been saying, that this move was mainly because of the central bank allowing us to use the US dollar for local transactions. Ladies and gentlemen, if you remember, we actually had good rains in 2021, and this led to a bumper harvest, which fueled incomes in the farming sector and reduced the need for maize imports. I think rising commodity prices coupled with growing mineral output assisted in the mining sector, especially in the informal gold sector. There was also a government infrastructure program, which was largely focused on road rehabilitation and the building of new dams, which greatly helped the construction sector. But I also believe the construction sector was also helped by, can I say, a lack of trust in the banking sector, as individuals chose to save their earnings. Either they would buy currency, either they would buy bricks and mortar, just so as to hedge whatever earnings they had. And you'd see that in 2021, we actually saw a bit of construction going on around the country. And also, finally, I think the rising wages in real terms has helped sustain consumer spending. I mean, we do expect also that the government policy where which they paid civil service in US dollars was also a stimulus for spending in December. And this can be reflected in the Delta results, which I just mentioned just now. But could you just zeroing in on the ZSE, I think it goes without doubt that it was an outstanding performer in all asset classes in 2021, both in US dollar and Zimbabwe dollar terms. Although, like I said before, we're coming on from a very low base in early 2020. But also there's little competition in the asset classes because if you look at the property class, it's largely US dollar anyway. It's expensive and it's not very liquid. And there's not much activity in that space. If you then look at the money market, it's yielding 20%, and for some prescribed assets, it's yielding about 40% at best. And because for me, I think fixed income was a huge disappointment because of the negative rate. But again, I'll come back to the strong performance of the ZSE, which more than doubled in US dollars and in real terms. And because you would agree with me that you've been in the market quite a while as well, and this doesn't often happen. I had clients calling me who were shocked when they saw how their portfolios had grown in US dollar value. So I think by and large, this is what pushed the market. And the ZSE in particular. And it suffice to say, we also, because of this introduction of being able to trade in US dollars in the local market, we've also seen companies issuing dividends as well, which is quite a welcome development. I think by and large, that's what I'm looking at in 2021.
Thank you, Kuda. Now, Imara as a group is known for its strong views on policy. When you look at 2021, what are your views on the policies that were in the economy in 2021?
Okay, Kuzi. I think I'll probably just really touch on the Dutch auction system on that, which was introduced last year. I think this was extremely commendable. However, I think my main disappointment there was that for the greater part of the year, the rate was stagnant. It didn't move. So you saw the disparity between the official rate and the parallel market widening almost every week. And there was a lag in payments where companies complained that they had the money tied up for 2-3 weeks. And also, I think the closing of the auction in December was also disappointing, as companies ended up looking for alternative sources of forex outside the formal sector. But on a positive note, we did very well on the inflation front because we managed to come from a high of about just below 900, I think, and we ended at 60. Of course, we did miss the mark, but I think we did exceptionally well as a country, and there's also room to do more. And also looking at just interest rates, because I think they remain hugely unattractive, and this has curtailed bank growth. If you look at bank reports, you will notice that most of the income is now coming from non-funded income. And this is because of these low interest rates. And it actually has curtailed the banks from performing their role as intermediary. I think
Yeah, maybe moving on, Kuda, just looking at now getting into 2022, we have already started the year. When I was looking at the numbers on Monday, I think we had the market was already up, the all-share index was already up by 12%, and we had not seen that much movement in terms of the parallel market rates, which means that those returns, the 12% return that we saw so far in the year, is actually like real return, because the movement on the parallel market, for example, hasn't been that much between the beginning of January and up to now. So just looking at 2022, what sort of returns are you seeing? What are you seeing in the market?
Okay, Kuzi, I think just looking forward, I'm just trying to look in my crystal ball here so I can answer you correctly. Huh? I think we don't expect money market assets to offer higher yields in 2022, mainly because the largest borrower is the government, unfortunately. And then for equities, I think they will remain the preferred asset class. So we might see that going on. But we expect listed companies to continue to report positive volumes and earnings growth, which will provide upward momentum on the ZSE. But I think we're not expecting to see any significant re-ratings in US dollar terms in 2022. This is mainly because there was such a strong performance in 2021. And market valuations in US dollar terms for listed companies at these current levels offer a fair value. Although I can't take away the fact that there could be some selective revaluations for certain counters that had lagged behind. Now, because again, in US dollar terms, I think equities were likely to see them to continue to rise as the Zim dollar depreciates, and continued growth by the underlying businesses will also lead to the prices to rise. And I think for 2022, on the local front or for local investors, I think it also is favorable to start investing now so you can catch the tide.
Thank you, Kuda, for that. Probably as we now move on to the Q&A segment, probably as the Imara group, anything else you'd want to share before we move on to the question and answer segment? And for those who are within the platform, you can raise your hand so that I can see you, so that we can allow you to ask your question, or you can type your question on our chat so that we can also get Kuda to address those questions. Yes, Kuda is head of investor relations at the Imara group here in Zimbabwe. So Kuda, anything else that you want to share with capital markets participants?
I think because I'll just look at, maybe I'll just touch on what I think are the red flags going into 2022. I might have missed them. I think the main red flag remains around inflation and currency uncertainties. I think with currency risk on the horizon and inflation still on the rise, we anticipate to see bouts of bull runs like we saw in the beginning of the year in the last 2 weeks. I think these will continue as investors continue to seek safe havens and more liquid assets. Unlike real estate, which I say is a bit expensive and is not easily liquidated, so they'd rather be playing the market more. So we're likely to see that continue. And also maybe on the development side, if as indicated before by the ZSC CEO, Mr. Justin Bongi, we're likely to see more listings on the VFX. And then on the ZSC, I think we've already witnessed the listing of the Morgan & Co ETF, and we're expecting more in this space. I think Justin also alluded to the fact that we might be seeing some suspended companies or who are under judicial management coming back on the local bourse. So I think that will be coming in this year, and we might see activity, quite exciting activity coming on. But unfortunately, my view is we're likely not going to see any IPOs because in the current environment, trying to raise money in Zim dollars is a bit meaningless. So I think by and large, this is what we have to say, and I will take any questions now.
I think you could. Now, the first question is about those who want to invest on the ZSC as well as on the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange. And the question is, can people in the diaspora invest on the ZSC and the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange, and how can they go about it?
So anyone can invest either on the ZSC or on the Victoria Falls Exchange. The main difference is the ZSC is traded in Zim dollars, while the Victoria Falls Exchange is traded in US dollars. Also, there's a difference in the cost structures of both the VFX and the ZSC. I think the main difference there is you might have noticed that government has just introduced or just revised the capital gains tax on the ZSC from 1% to 1.5% for investors holding securities for more than 6 months, and 2% for those holding securities for less than 6 months. Their aim, according to them, is to remove speculative tendencies from the market. But my personal view is I think that wasn't right. I think the market is there to be played and people are there to make money on it. And then on the Victoria Falls Exchange, the main attraction there is no capital gains tax. The brokerage there is less. It's 0.92% on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, while it's 0.6% on the Victoria Falls Exchange. Also, Victoria Falls Exchange, you use free funds, where if you invest while in the diaspora, you can easily get your money out, as there's a blanket exchange control approval on there. However, on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, if you invest while in the diaspora and you want to get your money out, it has to go through exchange control approval and it has to go through the auction.
Thank you. You have just answered my second question, which was about repatriation of funds outside of the country. But also on the one that you're also responding to, in terms of how to go about it. How does one open an account if they are in the diaspora?
Okay, so everything is electronic now, and these are some of the plus that we got from COVID. Is now we've moved away from any physical paper forms. So we can email you the account opening forms, and you can fill them in and email them back to us, and your account will be open within 24 hours. For individual accounts, we need a certified copy of your ID and proof of address, and then we will open your account within 24 hours. So if I get your account opening forms today, you will be able to start trading tomorrow.
Fantastic. The other question that is coming through, Kuda, is again about the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange, where they are asking, do you get your profits in USD if you trade on the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange? I think that one is straightforward. The market trades in US dollars, and you get your capital gains as well as your dividends in US dollars. Another question that comes through is he says, that's Nepson Moyo. He says, you mentioned suspended counters. What are your thoughts on Wange?
So on Wange being suspended, I think it's mainly looking at, they just need to comply on what's needed and they will be back on the market. But do they want to be back on the market? That's the question that I cannot answer for you today.
Yeah, thank you, Kudade. And then the other question that is coming through is the ZSC not overvalued comparing 2012 and 2013 valuation? I think that's when we reached a peak in 2013, and current price earnings ratios of a number of counters. Do other exchanges such as JSC not offer a better opportunity from the ZSC?
Thank you, because I think, as I mentioned before, that it was one of the best performing exchanges, not only in Africa, but actually in the world, where you could manage to double or triple your money in US dollar terms. It might have boiled a bit, but I think comparing it with 2013, 2014 levels is not particularly correct, because if you remember back then, it was supposed to be US dollars, but there was already a rate where it was 1:2, 1:3. So it wasn't really US dollars. But now we're actually valuing it and putting a proper rate to it and putting it in US dollars. So it hasn't overheated. It's still there's still upside in it, not as much as you'd have gotten if you got in the market in 2019 and 2020, but they did definitely a bit more upside in it.
Thank you. And the next question is, if one has a counter that was moved to the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange, how can they monitor it or buy? Basically, is asking about trading. And is there a platform similar to ZSC Direct and C-Trade when it comes to investing on the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange?
I think the platform is not yet there, but when I was talking to the stock exchange, the ZSC CEO mentioned that they are working on introducing this platform where you can trade similar to ZSC Direct, similar to C-Trade. And for you to trade that, one important thing you need to do is you need an independent custodian. So unlike on the ZSC where you have broker-controlled accounts and your broker is your custodian, with the Victoria Falls Exchange, you need the licensed custodians, which for now I think CBZ, FBC, and CAPS, and with only FBC and CBZ taking retail clients. So you need to be, because there's a separation between the executing broker and the settlement agent, who is the custodian. I think suffice to say, sorry, because I think suffice to say you also need a Nostro account, and any trading on the Victoria Falls Exchange is using free funds.
Thank you. And probably the last question there is Edson Mandev asked to say, I tried to open an account online, but it needs Zimbabwe banking details. Is that still the same on both ZSC as well as the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange? Does one require to have a local bank account, or they can use their foreign bank account?
So one can use their foreign bank account when opening an account on the ZSC. The main challenge comes to dividend payments. Not all dividends are paid in US dollars. So either you need to nominate a local account, preferably your broker, where your dividends are paid for reinvesting, or you would be prepared to wait and try your luck with the auction, which you might be stuck there for a few months.
Thank you there, Kuda. And the last question was saying, can locals trade on the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange? And do they need the same requirements? That's our last question there. That you can probably respond to, Kuda, and then we can close it off.
Definitely, locals can and are encouraged to trade on the Victoria Falls Exchange. And yes, the requirements are the same. You need your Nostro account. You need to open a custodial account. And you need to pre-fund your account with free funds to be able to purchase shares on the Victoria Falls Exchange. When you do sell on the Victoria Falls Exchange, you will be paid in US dollars in your Nostro account. And suffice to say, you are exempt from surrender requirements, so you get your money in full in US dollars.
Thank you, and that brings to the end today's capital markets overview series, where we were joined by Imara Group, represented by Head of Investor Relations, that's Kuda Kwashemdozi, who was joining us. Kuda, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you, Kuzi, and thank you for having me.
And also for all those who are on our platform, we thank you for joining us this afternoon. Join us again in the next 2 weeks as we bring again another market player in the capital markets. And our view and our aim is to make sure that players in the capital markets are known by everybody. We bring them to the people, we bring them to the investors. And by the end of the year, remember that last year we had the Capital Markets Awards, and this time around, at least the players, people would know the players, and when it comes to the winners, people would know, well, we know Imara, we know what they are on about, and their business and their model, and what they offer. So thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. It's bye-bye for now.